I may get hate for saying this, but Fantastic Four First Steps was an absolute... Welcome back everyone to Heroes and Villains HQ. I recently saw Fantastic Four First Steps last night, and in this video I'm going to give you my full unedited thoughts about the movie and do a quick movie review. Is Marvel back? Was the movie garbage? We're going to talk about it in this video, but first, spoiler warning, I'm going to be talking about the movie, scenes, characters, the post-credit scenes, everything. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, click off this video now and come back once you've seen it. All right, with that said, let's jump in. So before we jump into my thoughts and review of the movie, I just want to give a quick plot overview of what occurred in the movie. And it began with a snapshot of Sue and Reed's relationship where they find out they're pregnant. And of course, they're talking about Franklin. So that's how the movie begins. After learning they are pregnant, they go on the Ted Gilbert show where it showcases a 4-year montage of them defeating some of the villains like Mole Man. After the montage happens, they head back to the Baxter Building. Throughout the entire movie, you get nice one-on-one interactions between characters. You get a look at the entire family. You get really good family interactions. And that's throughout the entire movie. But the main plot point comes when Silver Surfer, Shalla-Bal, heads to Earth and lets it be known that she heralds Galactus. He is coming to destroy the planet. So the Fantastic Four decide that instead of waiting for Galactus to come to them, they were going to go to Galactus and try and negotiate a deal to spare Earth. So they take off in their spaceship to head up to Galactus. Reed showcases his brains and how he was able to pinpoint where Galactus is located. When they get to Galactus, they begin trying to negotiate a deal. However, Galactus states he wants Franklin. And this is the kind of main climax. This is what he's after. He wants Franklin. Of course, Fantastic Four say no. And we get an awesome space battle between the Silver Surfer and the Fantastic Four. This was a visually stunning sequence. After this, the Fantastic Four get back home to Earth. There are some interactions between, again, the characters when they get back home, also the characters and the citizens of Earth. However, the Fantastic Four want to save Earth, they don't want to ditch Earth, and they don't want to give up Franklin. And so this is the thing that they're really battling between. They're trying to figure out how to save Earth without giving up their child. Each character does their own thing in trying to push that forward, which we'll talk about, which ultimately leads to Reed's plan to teleport the Earth elsewhere. That plan works all the way up until the end, and they begin the teleportation. The Silver Surfer comes down and destroys all of the devices except for the one in New York, as Johnny showcases his abilities and is able to convince the Silver Surfer to spare us some time, as he was able to figure out her language. After Silver Surfer spares that last teleportation device, Reed comes up with a plan to use Franklin as bait to bring Galactus to the teleportation device and teleport Galactus elsewhere. That leads to a battle in New York City between the Fantastic Four and Galactus, where ultimately Sue Storm is able to push Galactus through the portal, and all of the other Fantastic Four members and the Silver Surfer ends up pushing him through and teleporting him elsewhere. And this leads to a victory over Galactus. Earth is saved, Franklin is saved, and all is well. So that is a quick plot overview. Probably wasn't the best one, but again, the main conflict is Earth is marked for death by Galactus. Galactus wants Franklin, and Reed and the Fantastic Four need to figure out how to save Earth and Franklin. That's the summary. So with the summary out of the way, what were my initial thoughts? Is Marvel back? Yes, they are 100% back. This movie was awesome in every sense of the word. It is a return to form for the MCU. The plot was simple. It was kind of one-dimensional. It went linear from point A to point B. However, with the simplicity of the movie, it excelled in other areas, and the plot was heartfelt between the family members. That was the biggest thing about this movie. It's Marvel's first family, and that was stressed Every single scene, time in and time out, it was all about the family interactions. And that was really, really awesome. It felt heartfelt. You could connect with the characters, and that was what was really great. Also, the soundtrack, chef's kiss, perfect, and visually stunning. The CGI was nailed. They've had issues during phases 4 and 5 with the overproduction of movies and shows that led to worse and worse CGI, and there's plenty of scenes I could point out. However, this movie was visually stunning, and specifically Act 2, in the space sequence, heading to Galactus and then leaving Galactus and fighting the Silver Surfer, and the black hole sequence. It is obvious that they took their time with those scenes and really polished them, and it looks like they did. So overall, the future for Marvel is bright and exciting. But to talk more details, what were the highlights of the movies? What did I really resonate with? What did I really like? The first thing was the soundtrack. The score, the main score for the Fantastic Four, was really, really great because it not only had the highs that got you really excited, gave you the goosebumps, it fit in with some of the action, but the soundtrack at times also got really quiet and low and made you bring out emotion for those sequences. However, the highlight in the soundtrack wasn't the main score for the Fantastic Four. It was Galactus' theme. Wow, it rattled the movie theater. When he was on screen or even just slightly off screen, you knew he was there, and it was menacing. It gave you chills and you were scared. He felt like a force. Just with the score alone, you felt fear, and that was awesome. The second thing I really, really enjoyed about this movie was the overall aesthetic. It gave this retro, futuristic 60s vibe. And the reason this works so well, right, is because in the 60s and 50s, this futuristic look is what people thought today, our day, would look like. And obviously it didn't come true. 2025 doesn't look like this retro futuristic style, which makes it believable. You can go into the movie theater and say, yeah, there's some nostalgic look at the 60s or the 50s, and there's things about this that are obviously so old, but they're fun and they make you feel happy. But also the futuristic aspects of it, you still believe that they're in the future because those things haven't come true. And that's why I think the retro-futuristic look is so effective, is it still makes the viewer feel like they're looking at the future. Also, the costume designs were spot on. They felt plucked from the comics, however, with their own little twist that gave it its uniqueness. Also, all 4 members had slightly different costumes. It felt like they almost designed their own costume a little bit, add a little twist to their version of it. They're a family unit, they work as one, but they also have their own traits, and the costume design helped display that. As I mentioned during my initial thoughts, is the CGI and visuals were spot on. They obviously took their time in crafting these worlds and even the outer space sequences. The black hole felt straight out of Interstellar, and I love Interstellar. It's one of my favorite movies. It was just so good. You were enthralled with the look of the movie, and they nailed it. They truly nailed it. Okay, the next thing I loved about this movie was the casting. I know some people were worried about Joseph Quinn as the Human Torch, and definitely people were worried about Pedro Pascal as Reed. All of them nailed it, spot on to the characters. And actually, Johnny Storm was my favorite in the movie. They were engulfed in how these characters would act on their own, in the family unit, in front of other people. It was so accurate to the characters, and I was really pleased. And I was right off the rip just ready to go and ready to enjoy these characters, and the castings brought them to another level for me. Another big thing that was a concern going into the movie was character development. It was rumored to be, a 2-hour and 20-minute movie, and it got cut down to 1 hour and 50 minutes. Some people say they can see it. I don't personally agree with that. I felt like the movie paced and moved very well. However, even with the cut of content, the character development for each member of the team everybody got their own sequences. Everybody moved forward in the plot. And sometimes, in these team up movies, there's a few standout characters and then there's a few that are just kind of there. You look at the Thunderbolts and obviously Yelena and Bob Sentry, those were the two main characters of the team that got plot and character development versus, John Walker, Ghost, Bucky even, they were just there for the team up. They didn't really move forward in their characters. In this case, all four of the members, they moved forward. They developed during the time of the movie. Beginning with Reed, right? He is the smartest man alive. He can solve any equation. He can solve any problem. In this entire movie, he was behind. He felt like he was behind. He couldn't figure out how to save Earth. He couldn't figure out how to stop Galactus. He couldn't figure out if Franklin had powers, even though he developed his own machine to test him. So he was battling this the entire time. He can't figure it out. He can't figure it out, but that's his job. He should be able to figure it out, right? And you get to the end of the movie, and with Franklin, with the team, he's able to accept that sometimes he's not going to be able to solve everything, and that's okay. He's still going to try his hardest and working as a team, because at the end of the movie, when they try and save Earth, it wasn't just Reed solving the problem. They needed all four members to solve the problem. And so Reed's development is moving from a siloed individual to a member of the family in solving problems. So that was great. As for Sue, I think she was the standout of the movie, without a doubt. A mom in every sense of the word, taking care of Johnny and Ben and Reed and Franklin and everybody on Earth. That was her priority, is that motherly instinct. She does everything in her power during this movie to help the people around her without any regard for her own, eventually giving her life for the Earth and for Franklin. Granted, Franklin does end up saving her in that sequence, but it doesn't matter. That's her in this movie, and one of the standout scenes is her speech to the protesters outside the Baxter Building, calling them her family as well. It wasn't just about Franklin, when the protesters wanted to give up Franklin to Galactus to save Earth, and that sequence really was a standout. Ben was also a standout, a friend to Reed, an uncle to Franklin, almost like a brother to Johnny, always protecting Sue. He had that kind of gentle giant feel to him during this movie, but it also had, because obviously we know about Ben Grimm, is when he gets transformed into the thing he needs to grapple with, he's never going to be human again. He's not going to have those connections. He's not going to be himself anymore. And in the older Fantastic Four movies, in the comics, that's a constant recurring theme for him. And during this movie, you had hints of it. Him trying to flirt, him with other characters, but the greatest thing is he was always putting everybody else first. But the small scenes of that emotional struggle, brought life to the character. Lastly, Johnny, who was my personal favorite in this movie, they didn't go the route, and the route is the inaccurate route. Johnny isn't some loser, uneducated jerk that's only looking for women. That's not who Johnny Storm is, and it's not who he was in the comics. Obviously, he shrugs off things with humor. He feels inferior, right, from a mind perspective to Sue, Ben, and Reed. In this movie, it was a quest to prove his intelligence, and the biggest thing he did was figuring out Shalabal's language, and that ultimately led him to convince Shalabal to stop destroying Earth, and then Shalabal ends up saving the Fantastic Four by pushing Galactus through the portal at the very end. So Johnny was really the one that put the final notch in saving the Earth and the Fantastic Four, and his character was just, like I said, it was my personal favorite during the movie. The last and fifth item that I want to call out is family. This movie was about family. It was about the familial connections between the characters, and that translated in their love for each other, and more importantly, the humor during the movie. You were convinced the entire time that these four characters cared for each other. And you can resonate with that because everyone in their life has somebody that they love and they have that connection with, whether it's a parent, a sibling, a friend, a partner, it doesn't matter. Everybody has somebody and they can relate to that. They can relate to those connections. And in this movie, the love between Reed and Sue, the brotherly banter between Ben and Johnny. Another standout scene was when Reed, Johnny, and Ben were trying to put the car seat into the Fantastic car and they couldn't get it. You know, you gotta feed the seatbelt through the loop, and they couldn't lock it in. It was hilarious, and Sue was just standing off to the side with Franklin laughing at him. So funny. It was so convincing because the jokes weren't cheesy one-liners or quips or, you know, breaking the silence with a joke. It was family humor, banter, ragging on each other. It was perfectly executed every single time, and it never felt out of place. It never took you out of the movie and then had to bring you back in. The humor was perfectly planted, and they nailed it. Now, I want to talk about the post-credit scenes. The second post-credit scene was like a cartoon of the Fantastic Four. I thought it was cute. It was fun. Throwback to the original Fantastic Four stuff. But the first post-credit scene that happened after the mid-credits, guess who's arrived? Dr. Doom. He's here. The post-credit scene shows Sue reading a book to Franklin. She gets up to go get a new book, and in that period of time, you hear a noise, and then Dr. Doom presumably appears, and Sue walks around the fireplace, and Doom is sitting there on his knee with his mask off looking at Franklin. Now, you can't see Doom's face. It was totally covered by the hood. He was holding the mask off to the side, and Franklin was there touching his face. So, and then the scene cuts. So Doom has arrived. He obviously wants Franklin, and only Sue is currently there in the room. So just to speculate as to what possibly is next. During the whole movie, we're teased that Franklin has, you know, cosmic powers. Obviously, Doom wants Franklin and wants his powers to exploit for whatever his goal is in Doomsday. As for what happens next, a couple of things. There's a rumor that maybe Franklin's healing his face, because obviously we know Dr. Doom is disfigured, so maybe Franklin's healing his face. But also, the best guess is that Dr. Doom is going to abduct Franklin right out from under Sue and maybe teleport to someplace safe, teleport to the other universe. We're not sure. But obviously it's clear Dr. Doom wants Franklin, and the Fantastic Four are going to spend Doomsday trying to get Franklin back. That seems to be the main plot point between these two sets of characters. But looking at the future, like I had mentioned at the very beginning, the future is exciting. It is exciting, again, to be a Marvel fan and to go to these movies. They made you feel something. You're excited for these characters. You're excited to see what's next. So obviously I had already speculated a little bit for what's next for Doom and Doomsday. Also, the Thunderbolts post-credit scene where we see the Fantastic Four ship enter the MCU universe. We still don't know who that is. Obviously, that ship in that scene had 4 boosters. In First Steps, their ship, the Excelsior, only has 3. So we're not sure if it's the same Fantastic Four team members. Maybe it's the original cast. Maybe it's Doom and Franklin from another universe. We don't know, but we still don't know who's in that ship. We don't know if Doom is going to abduct Franklin. We don't know if Doom is from the 828 universe where Fantastic Four First Steps is taking place. Also, Galactus did not die, which I'm so happy they didn't just kill him off. Where's Galactus? He's on the edges of the universe, but he's still around. And I guarantee you he's going to be an overarching villain in the next phases. We're probably going to see him again. So all of these open questions and love for these characters, like I said, it's exciting. We want to see what happens next. And there's a lot of plot points ready to build off of in the next phase. So overall, this movie for me, I'd give it a 9 out of 10. So excited for the sequel. So excited to see them in Doomsday and Secret Wars. This movie nailed it. It met my expectations and then some. It's a win for Marvel, and it was an awesome comic book movie, and I highly, highly recommend you go and watch it now in theaters. So thank you all for watching this video. If you've made it this far, if you have, definitely go check out my reviews of the Fantastic Four Marvel Legends figures. I'll link them up above. But again, thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe down below for more Star Wars and Marvel content, so you can always stay tuned for my next video. I'm posting about once a day currently, so definitely check out my channel and some of the other content I'm posting. Also, let me know in the comments down below what you thought of the Fantastic Four movie, if you've already seen it. Do you agree with some of my points? Do you disagree? Let me know, and we can discuss in the comments below. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.